Hello and welcome to the first episode of Raspod, a sourcing podcast with brilliant minds in headhunting. I am Anurag, your host for the series, representing Rent a Sourcer. I hope you're all doing good and awaiting the holiday season already. But before we go into the holiday mode, we thought of bringing you some hot trends, strategies, and advice on the talent sourcing industry. Raspod, a sourcing podcast with brilliant minds in headhunting. In this series, I'm going to interview the best people in the talent sourcing industry. I've designed questions for experts to help us understand the root problems and get the solutions. Also, I'll try to get a few secrets for successful talent hunting. Let us dig deeper into the world of human capital, talent management, hiring, recruitment, and most importantly, the sourcing part of it. Are you thrilled and excited to take up this insightful journey with me? Because I am. I'm already looking forward to the many experts I'll be talking to and gaining knowledge about talent sourcing. So, without much further ado, let me introduce you to our first guest, John Rose, a recruiting protagonist, motivator, mentor. From newspaper boy through engineering to recruiting protagonist, John believes in the need to embrace change, develop new skills, and share them with the passion and belief that the world is not flat and you can teach old dogs new tricks and always be human. For 28 plus years, John has been actively and passionately involved in the talent sourcing, attraction, engagement, and management of engineering and technology focused individuals in both corporate and agency environments, locally, nationally, and internationally. Today, John proactively supports businesses without cutting edge sourcing, recruitment solutions, and teams. As change happens by design and not by incident, John motivates, coyoles, and emphasizes the need to learn from others and to develop new practices, to source and engage with people. John is very involved in the global sourcing and recruiting community, and you can find, connect, or follow John on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, or you can just go to Google and just type in Resourceful John. So, welcome to the Raspod, the sourcing podcast, John. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you very much, Anurag. Excited to be the first guinea pig of the podcast and renting source. I love the idea, the concept, and going forward, I think it's brilliant. Thank you very much, and I appreciate being invited.
Yes. So, John, again, I appreciate you joining us and becoming the first guest here because we share our common motto, right? So, in order to help educate our sourcing community and help them with all sort of problems and solutions to those problems that they are facing currently while they're sourcing and they are doing a lot of sourcing in the recruitment activities, right? So let's jump straight to what I have for you, John. So I see that you're from the UK, then you moved to Canada for many years, and now you're back to UK, right? So
yeah,
is it tea or coffee that you prefer as a beverage?
That is brilliant because it depends on the time of day, but I love both. I think I got corrupted in my first visit as an engineer to the US to coffee, and I drink it natural, as in coffee, water, nothing else. That's it. Yeah, or a cup. Gotta have it in a cup, otherwise I burn my hands. But yeah, tea is obviously a traditional English condiment to life, as I say, and do that side. And both of them I drink black with no other additives. So I say it all depends on what mood I'm in. If I want a buzz, I'll actually have an extra strong black tea because it's got more caffeine and I bounce off walls a lot quicker and easier and better.
Wonderful. I like black coffee too. Cheers here.
I'll have my tea. I'll drink my tea. Good English flag, yeah, with a mini.
Great. So one other thing, Sean, that you started your career with aerospace engineering at Royal Air Force. That's really wow. And you worked for over 22 years there. I'd love to know how this transition towards the recruitment field happened.
Well, part of being in engineering, once you get up to a management or a team leading or a leadership role, part of that job is irrespective is building teams and bringing teams together and having the strengths in each area that you want to have so that you can have the perfect jigsaw picture puzzle solution and deliver that. So when I moved then from the RAF into then the Civvy Street, then into working with British Aerospace and working with General GKN, someone said to me, right, we want you to project manage this aspect, about £380 million project for converting some aircraft. And I said, which idiot gave me these teams? And this person said, I did. I said, well, they're not going to be able to do it, so let me go and build a team. And someone said, oh, you're doing recruitment. And I went, what? No, I'm building a team. They said, yeah, that's called recruitment. You're going out, you're finding the people, assessing them, evaluating the skills, and putting them all together to be able to deliver something, deliver the project. And I went, okay, that's called recruitment. So I thought, well, best I go and learn about it and find out how to do it properly, because you don't do things half-heartedly. You don't pretend to someone. If you're going to do it, you've got to commit to doing it properly, professionally, and carefully and respectfully. So that's how I got into recruitment as such 28 plus years ago now.
Well, thank God. Thanks. It really worked out, because 28 years before you took this decision of coming into recruitment, and that's benefiting us right now. We as junior sourcers, or maybe some mid-level folks in the recruitment domain. So thanks for selecting such a career.
No problem. Thank you very much. And even today, I still say recruitment is a profession. It's not a byproduct. It's not a sideline. It's not a side job. It is a profession that requires 100% commitment.
Certainly. Yeah. So being in the talent acquisition circuit for around 28 years now, what's your view on how the talent acquisition has evolved over the years? So very traditional ways of doing it in the beginning, and now it's more of a digital kind of a way.
I think you'll find that the talent acquisition, and let's go back, I want to go back a couple of steps. If talent acquisition is the title used at this moment in time very heavily in North America or in global organizations, companies. So let's go back to what it was before. It was personnel management. It's about people. From there, we went then into human resources. Now, please don't take offense, but I call it human resistance departments because they tend to be strategically focused, not people focused. And then we go into talent acquisition. So the titles have changed, but the activities are still the same. It's about what do we want? What do we need? Where are they? How do we attract them? How do we engage with the people with what we want and what we need? How do we then get them on board? How do we go through a fair, valid, and equal assessment evaluation process and hire the right person at the right time for the right reason? But also we reject people for the right reason against a standardized process or system. So that's the same today. What's different really is the technology. You mentioned digital. Well, I was mechanical, then I was analog, then digital. So I was Web 1.0, then Web 2.0, Web 3.0, GPT's 3 now for looking at the open source APIs and the technology, but it's still the same. So how much can you get done in a given day, and can you automate those repetitive, easy to do processes? Like I've got 30 job boards, so I want to send my job out to all 30. The old days you have to do it manually one-on-one. Now you can just upload it once, use many times by pressing a button. That's the only difference, and where it's going. And where it's going further, more and more automation, but still using the human side and not losing the human side of the business.
That's for sure. On the similar lines that you said that on the North America side, how the process is working, specifically the human resources process in Canada versus the UK. Do you see any differences there?
Titles, job titles. Your audience, the sources and the recruiters that's going to be watching and listening to us here know that you have to have synonyms of job titles because companies call them different things, even though they do the same job. And it's the same in North America or Canada. Both North America and Canada tend to call talent acquisition tends to be more in-house or RPO-based companies, organizations, where a recruiter or a sourcer is then more, some view it as agency, but I don't, it's third party, but it can also be in-house. So you can't use one title and apply to all. The difference is all down to titles, not functionality, not activities, but it's all the titles assigned by Europe. The UK doesn't call them sources. UK calls them resources or researchers. And there was actually an interesting discussion in one of the Facebook groups with Adam Gordon from Candidate ID, asked a question about that thing. What's the difference between a sourcer and a resourcer? Is one in-house and one agency? And I said, no, a resourcer is used in the UK and Europe as a junior researcher, recruiter who can then progress on, which I disagree with, because a sourcer is more than a junior recruiter. A sourcer is far in excess of most recruiters and their abilities and what they can do.
Certainly. Yes. So that's why we are having this discussion, right? So talking about sourcing as a separate function in the process of hunting, in the process of talent acquisition. What do you think? Is it necessary, or it's just a hype about a sourcer being not being a junior recruiter, but a separate function as sourcing?
If you'd have asked me this 10 years ago, I would have said a sourcer is a junior recruiter, is someone who just does some gathering of information and then gives it to the recruiter who's 360 degree or is a 180 degree or a headhunter, who's then going to do the work. Ask me 3 years ago and I've said a sourcer is an advanced recruiter who's identified that the hardest challenge and the biggest challenge is how to find, engage, and present individuals at the right time for the right reason. So that's why Talent Pipelines was created and started, because that wasn't being done in the past. You had an Oracle database that was full up with hundreds of thousands of records of people, but you did nothing with it. You went out to the market to find others. So a sourcer function now is being recognized in-house by companies and organizations and by some of the bigger agencies, the bigger RPO companies, as being an essential separate function from talent acquisition or recruitment as such. So there's a different change in market temperament.
Yeah. So here at Renter Sourcer as well, we have a handful of sources, junior sources as well as senior sources working on us, and they were quite excited that when we gave it a thought that let's do such kind of an interview series with some experts in the domain. So they had certain questions to ask you. So one of those questions that these guys came up with, that if sourcing is a separate function in the domain, then what are the career progression options for the same?
It's a brilliant question, and it's one I get asked quite often, is looking at how do you then progress without going from sourcing into recruitment or into account management or talent acquisition or talent management. I look at sourcing as being, you start somewhere, which is usually the bottom, because you've got to learn the rules, the principles, the practices, the tools, the techniques. So you start a junior sourcer, you then become a sourcer, if you want, as going. The sourcer means you've gone through your orientation and onboarding, and you've worked your way around the room and doing that side. You then sourcer, you could then become a strategic sourcing partner. You can become a sourcing manager. could be a director of talent intelligence, because most talent intelligence people are sourcing. The sourcing information on the people that's required by the companies. What's the geographical location? Where are the skills strongest? What's happening in this market over that market? So if an entity or a company wants to, say, open up a development house in Macedonia, what are the skill sets in Macedonia? Where are they located in Macedonia? So you can do it for talent intelligence to benefit the business. And sourcing really is part of business intelligence as well. It helps them out. And that's one of the early things I did was talent mapping. And I did it before I knew it was called sourcing. And before looking at that side, I did it as part of recruitment, where I knew where every reliability and safety case analyst engineer was in North America, all 286 of them. I'd mapped every single one of them. I knew where they were, and I spoke to every single one of them to find out what they were doing. Are they on contract? Are they permanent? You know, if they're on contract, when they're going to be leaving. So all those things. That's mapping. That's getting the data. And what's it going to cost if a new company wants them?
Right.
So that's where. So you can. There's a full hierarchical structure for sourcing within the talent people group of a business.
That's wonderful. And on the similar lines, let's say that we know that you've worked with you've managed a lot of people, you've worked with a lot of recruiters, and so there are certain very common mistakes that talent acquisition guys or maybe recruiters or sources make, right? And what are those mistakes that you've commonly seen across, and how to overcome these?
A lot of the commonest things is people are lazy. By humans will naturally take the easiest, quickest path to become lazy in doing things. I suppose my ADHD, whatever you want to call it, where I'm very process driven, very systematic, looking at and getting in there, and I want to be doing different things. The biggest mistake people make is not completing a search correctly. Going through all the steps, all the possibilities, all the activities, looking at the no's as well as the yeses of going. So when you're doing that, so that's whether you're talent acquisition, a recruiter, or a sourcer, you've got to understand, right at the beginning, you've got to understand what it is you're actually got to go and find. So you've got to scope it. You've got to know your scopes. So, and we just did an exercise with the company I'm working with at the moment, where we sat looking at, you don't let the technology dictate how you do something. You tell the technology how you're going to do it, how you're going to look at achieve it and do it. So we've just changed the intake process from hiring managers to go from start off with intake, then we do approval. So it's great them saying, yes, I want this type of person. We then go to the finals, the CFO, and say, can you approve this hire? And they go, okay, yes, you approve it. We then do a kickoff. And the first question I ask in the kickoff is, who do you know can do this job? And they stop and go, oh, well, so-and-so can do it. So why haven't you asked them to do, if they want to do the job? So you look internal.
Yes.
The next one then is, okay, let's have a look in our internal database of candidates, of applicants. Is there anyone there that stands out and goes, oh, they might be able to do the job. They might be able to, because they're warm. They already know your company. They're already applied. They're already in your data set. So you can look at it there. And then we turn around and say, now, externally, what are you looking for? And this is probably the one thing that most don't do, is they take the job description or the job specification that they've been given by HR or by talent management that says, here's the corporate job description. And you go, okay, I get that, scrunch it up into a little ball, throw it away and say, and do a little whiteboard exercise which has and, or not. And I say, what do they have to have? Oh, it's a software engineer. So I said, what else could there be? Software developer. Oh, right. Okay. So we've got two possible. So there's synonyms. So there's your oars. Yeah. And you build that up, and spending 30 minutes or 45 minutes doing that can save you hours and hours of finding, searching, x-raying, whatever, doing a scraping, reaching out, messaging, and then finding out and saying, well, actually, yeah, no, that's not right. And you go, oh, all because you didn't scope it properly in the first place. And the final thing people are scared to do is to go back to the hiring manager, the person that's going to do it, and say to them, okay, 2 weeks time, we're going to sit down and we're going to visit and revisit what we've done. What have we got? What are we missing? What's not working? So what have we got to change? It allows for a reset, but it also makes people focus on trying to get it right first time.
Yeah.
That's a long-winded way of saying, know what you're looking for, what you've got to do so you can deliver it right first time.
Yes, makes sense.
Okay.
Great. So, John, while doing all sort of these stuff, so I recall you saying that you began the talent acquisition and the recruitment process once at a certain time when it was mechanical, then slowly moved to analog, and then now digital. So, a common tool that you cannot live without among all these three generations, I can say. So, a tool that you cannot live without.
A tool that I can't live, I've got about 350 tools. So to say I can't live without it would depend on it. But one of the best ones that I use, I'm going to do two on purpose.
All right.
Because what I've found is I use IDS, Instant Data Scraper. So if I go onto a website or I go on to do a search and have a list of people, I use that tool to create extract it all, put it all down, and copy it into a sheet, into a Google Sheet or into a CSV. Sometimes what I found is that that's not good enough for the site, the domain I'm working in. So I'll then use data miner to scrape and get the relevant information I want. And quite often that then gives me a starting point to start manipulating the data. And at the moment you have to do it manually, because that's where I go from a long list, may have 300 lines of information on people, and I want to get it down to a manageable 100 or 125 and take out the false positives. And you can do it by playing around with search strings or with your queries, whatever. But I find it easy to mark one eyeball, looking and going, yes, no. And you do that and you get your shorter list. Then you can then use other tools to then enhance the data you have on those people looking at. So you can look at using Sony, if you can look at, there's so many different ones that you Rocket Reach, you can do your Signal Hire to get the extra emails and identify the other places where they have information. So you've got that on them to enhance and enrich the profiles of the individuals you're then going to be reaching out to. So those two are probably the primary ones for the scraping. For messaging, if I want everyone who's only using InMails or LinkedIn to get their left hand and slap the left side of their face 3 times. Do it now. If that's all you're using, that's the worst thing you can possibly do. So what I like to do is I like to have a good nurturing campaign that can help me find emails for these individuals, personal emails preferably. Sometimes you've got to use Word, which means you've got to create a different messaging protocol for it, but you use that. So I use Gem, I use Source Whale for those nurturing campaigns, which is you import the people's information, they help enrich it, and you can then set out a bulk automated nurturing of 3, 4, 5, 6 messages at different times of the day or night or weekends, so that you can have a better chance to reach the person. And you create a series of emails. I always make them fun, and I never sell a job until I've spoken to them. Never.
Wonderful.
So that's the two areas that I think is the weakest for people to do, to learn to use, but they give the most value, the most ROI.
Correct. Awesome. Right. So I also wanted to understand specifically, now we're moving towards the end of our interview. So peculiarly, sometimes it does happen that with these changing times for the last couple of years, the entire world has been, the things have changed so much, right? So right from the regular IT jobs towards the domain of recruitment and staffing, entire world has moved to a remote workplace or maybe a hybrid model, right? So how has remote or hybrid working impacted this particular this particular domain, that is the talent acquisition domain?
I think that the hybrid model has been forced upon talent acquisition, talent management, human resources. They resisted it as much as possible because they don't feel in control, in charge. The macro, micro management awareness of what's going on. But it's been forced upon them. But now that a lot of them have tasted it, who had never tasted it before, love remote working element. And it's humanized, I think, the workplace more than a lot of other places have. A lot of other activities have gone on in the talent, the working world, the world of work, they call it nowadays. So hybrid has got its values if you can go into the office. The company I'm working with are going hybrid from remote first for our functionality. But the problem with that is I'm 4,500 miles away. So I'm not going to go into the office 3 days or 2 days a week. So I've said I can do hybrid, but I can do it through video and have conference calls with the hiring managers, with the VP, with the CEO of the companies, whatever. It makes no difference. So it's how you apply hybrid. And there is no need for talent acquisition for the recruiters and for the sourcers to be in the office, because we're a global marketplace nowadays.
Yeah.
Companies are not only hiring in their own town, their own village, their own city, they're going out to the wider country, Canada, 4 time zones, takes you 3.5 days to drive coast to coast, and then you've got to survive Toronto and other places, but that's a whole different story. But you're looking at the world has got very small, and people have realized they can actually do the work. They can deliver it. They can have it. The technology is enabling us to do it. So I think people have not to be scared of going back to the hybrid model, but it's then looking at what value, what ROI are they going to get out of hybrid over remote? Are they going to add value in doing it? If the answer is we don't know, then don't do it. Or just get one person or 2 people to try it to see if there is going to add real value to it. It's a bit like I used to have to travel into downtown Toronto, and I had people who lived an hour and a half outside of Toronto, and they traveled an hour and a half every morning, an hour and a half every night. And I'm going, why? In that hour and a half, I can do 2 hours of work. I can do a lot more work during that time period. So why are you doing it? I'm not frustrated. I'm not annoyed. I've not got road rage with the idiots on driving, or got crammed onto a bus or onto a subway and going in. So you look at that side, say, from a human, mental and physiological perspective, I'm better off working remote and looking at that side.
But doesn't that actually take the human element out of the recruitment phase? Let's say that we schedule a couple of rounds with a technical recruiter, or maybe a technical round with somebody from the engineering team. So not always a virtual interview might end up giving us the right candidate to be hired, but it's also about the body language that we can judge once we are having physical interviews. So
brilliant. And I know exactly where you're going. And the first thing I will say is less than 10% of recruiters, talent acquisition, and sources have completed any neuro-linguistic formal training education in how to do advanced interview techniques to look at the neuro-linguistic component. I've done it, and I know the value of doing it. I've also done it through audiology and listening, and that's where a lot of them don't listen. They follow a script.
yes,
They'll have a script here, and they'll ask the question and they'll write the answer down. They don't actually listen to what's saying. So whether you do it physically sat across a table in a room, or as we are, you're in India, I'm in the UK, we are sat across a virtual table having that conversation. You can still see my eyes, you can still see if I start fidgeting and start getting nervous, you can still see that. You can look at all those body language parts. You can then also, in addition, one of the things that we've experienced is people are getting others to do testing for them and pretending by having issues with the videos and that side. And we've made a conscious decision. If you can't come on your video and you're not who you say, oh, guess what? We're not doing the interview. You're not going to do the test. And until you can do it, you're rejected. So it's going back there and trying to remove false things. But the human side is human interaction nowadays is digital. Doesn't have to be human to human, in person, sat in the same room. That's the world. That's the world we're in now. Sometimes it's nice to get. I was actually interviewing a senior manager, and the one thing he said he misses was standing at the water cooler in the office, in the tea room. They still call it a tea room, even though it was in Canada. Yeah, and he said sitting in the tea room and just chatting and talking with the people about anything and everything, and more things coming. He said, that's the only thing you miss. And I said, well, we've got a Slack channel for that. And we actually get it where we'll get into a huddle. And we'll have 3, 4, 5, 6 of us on a huddle on the Slack. He said, oh shit, I never thought, oh, brilliant. So we used to send a message out. If you want to come to huddle, join this huddle, let's have a chat over a water cooler chat. And he found he brought it back into doing what he used to do in person, but he was still able to do it digitally.
Yeah. Wonderful. Right. Hi, John. We're moving to the end of our interview. So I just wanted you to give some advice to the young talent who wants to start their career in this space, in this industry, recruitment, talent acquisition, human resources, and now circling all these things towards the sourcing aspect, which is far better and the most important part of this particular space.
The first piece of advice I give, which may upset some people, and I don't apologize for it now, is you do not need an MBA to be a good recruiter, a good sourcer, a good talent acquisition, a good HR person.
Yeah.
You need to be human.
Yes.
You need to have a bucket load of common sense, a skip or hundreds of bucket loads of querying, want to learn more, want to be inquisitive into what you're doing and what you're going, and don't be afraid to ask why.
Yes.
How do you do that? Because it's important. And I think in terms of a junior or someone who's thinking of coming into the industry or coming into or changing industries or coming in there, is Learn the business, the profession first. Learn about sourcing, not necessarily technical sourcing, but learn about sourcing. Learn about recruiting. So if you're going to recruit remotely for a company in the UK or in Europe or in US or in Canada, learn the rules first. What are the rules of recruitment? What can you and can you not say to people? Yeah, be respectful of people. Looking at that. So you've really got to learn the rules first and the basic principles before you decide which stream you're going to go down, what niche, what specialization you're going to be in, or are you going to be a generalist? You want to talk technical? I can talk technical till the cows come home. You want to talk administration or clerical or accounting? I can talk then. Yeah, probably not till the cows come home, but certainly till the sheep come home. Not as much. So, because of I always ask and find out from someone about that industry, about that profession, about that business, but not from the company I'm going to be working with, from someone outside, a mentor, a specialist in that area, because people love to brag about what they do and how good they are. That's human nature. So if I'm going to start doing, when I did one project for CV, ML, and DL before machine learning and deep learning CV, I'm going computer vision. Okay, I know computer vision from automations in, this is different. This is computer vision for AI. And I'm going, artificially intelligent. It's pretend. He said, yeah, that's right. We're not there yet. And I had a conversation and I spoke to probably 20 PhDs who were leaders in this field. And I just said, what is it? Why do each person have different interpretations? And they explained it and went through it. So I gathered knowledge. Be a sponge, but also be prepared to share what you have and what you learn. And don't think what you know today will still be the same as tomorrow. It will not. If it is, you're not doing a good job. You're not doing respect for yourself and for your profession. Does that answer in simple terms? So start off with, make it simple for you. Learn the business of sourcing or recruitment in general. Then learn the specifics of the industry, the business, the niche that you're going to focus in. And you can start in one and grow and expand into others. Learn the business of business. You've got to know that, of how where the positions, the roles fit within the business and what you're doing. And then learn how to communicate professionally, courteously, respectful within and be human in all your activities. That's it. That's what makes success.
That is perfect. Yes. So I'm very sure that people, or maybe the young talent who would be listening to this interview series, they'd be definitely benefited with that advice. So, John, thank you so very much for being our first speaker of this interview series. I'm very grateful on behalf of Rent-A-Sourcer, as well as all our viewers who would be very much grateful for towards you for sharing this piece of wisdom and so much of experience that you have in the same domain, right? So again, it was really nice to have you here, and hopefully once I come down to the UK, then we're meeting for sure, and we're discussing more source up on sourcing, talent acquisition, and so on.
Exactly, Enrico. Thank you very much, Rent-A-Sourcer, to yourself, to Quintin, for the whole team. And if anyone has got a question, they want to reach out, I'm always available. Again, you can find me very easy. If you can't find me, learn how to source better, because yes, I'm probably the easiest person to find. I'll be a lot easier than some of the people you will have to go and find in sourcing. But thank you very much. Greatly appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, John. So again, I'd like to mention to all our viewers, if you want to find John, just go to Google, put in Resourceful John, and you'll have him.
Oh yeah, I'm there.
Thanks, John, and hope you have the rest of the day ahead. Very nice.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Andrew. Take care.
You too.